So this is going to be my NFL 2022 Week 8 review and recap, part of a series of videos I do where I go through the NFL week in review, through all the games, the big picture takeaways, the recaps, and all that kind of stuff. We're halfway through the season, so the big picture for a lot of this stuff is starting to become clear with these teams, who's good, who's bad, what can we expect from each team, and all that kind of stuff. So we start off with the Thursday night game, Ravens at the Buccaneers. Ravens won this one 27-22. I thought the Ravens would win this one. They're the better team than the Buccaneers, and they showed it even though they were down. I think they got overall definitely more consistent than the Buccaneers this year. The Buccaneers, obviously, it's been a really rough go for them, losing 3 in a row now. Brady hasn't looked like Brady for a variety of reasons. Although I do think now that the thing, it's kind of cleared up now between him and Giselle. The divorce is finalized. Maybe he'll be able to better focus on the rest of the season. Who knows? Maybe it'll motivate him in some kind of weird way, because that's how Tom Brady's wired. And plus the division that they're in, I mean, it's a god-awful division. The Falcons are 4-4 leading it. So the Buccaneers are hardly out of things, and they own the tiebreaker over the Falcons right now. They're 1-0 against them. So things definitely are not over for the Buccaneers. I think both of these teams are in okay shape. Obviously, the Ravens are in actually really good shape. When you look at the record, they're 5-3, and look at their schedule coming up. So I think both of these teams in the end will be fine. Now we move over to the Sunday slate, the early game, the very early game, Broncos at the Jaguars. And this was early because it was the London game, I believe the final London game of the year. Broncos won this one 21-17. The Jaguars, they've sort of continuing their slide after their solid start to start the season. The Broncos, they needed this win. It was a must win. I think all the reports were that had they lost this game, they would have fired their coach. They probably would have been big sellers at the trade deadline. Which honestly, maybe in the big picture, that might have been a good thing for them. But now that they have this win, they'll sort of continue to push through the season. And Russell Wilson played, I guess, okay. I mean, there hasn't been any player whose reputation I've seen dip more than Russell Wilson in one season. Just the kind of comments that have been made about him, the drive-bys his teammates have made on him, or former teammates, or from the Seahawks, or previous years and all that kind of stuff. It's just a really weird situation that, they kind of stuck with him now. But, there you go. They got the win. Now we move over to the regular time schedule. Dolphins at the Lions. Dolphins won this one 31-27. They were down a decent amount in this game, but they were able to put some good drives in the second half to take the game over. As for the Lions, it's another ugly season for them. 1-6 now, I believe. And yeah, I think this will be Campbell's last year's coach. You can only survive on that lovable meathead coach thing for so long. After a while, you do have to put some wins together. And it doesn't look like this is going to be a very productive season for them in the win column. So I think he'll be out after this season. Panthers at the Falcons, definitely a game no one would think that would have scheduled on their schedule coming up when the games came out. But the Falcons won this one 37-34. It was actually a battle for first place, as whoever won this game would have been first in that god-awful NFC South division. Now this game, they showcased it after the Cowboys and Bears games, the fourth quarter, and this game was actually really fun. I mean, it had an unbelievable play at the end where P.J. Walker made a huge yard, like a 70-yard throw to DJ Moore to tie the game, but then DJ Moore gets a dumb penalty on his part, taking off his helmet in celebration, like a 15-yard penalty, pushed the field goal back or extra point back, missed it, game goes to overtime. Kind of a sloppy overtime, to be honest. Both teams tried to give the game away, but the Falcons ended up winning this one. And yeah, it's amazing that the Panthers potentially could have been in first place after winning this game, after firing their coach, benching their quarterback, and trading their best player. Goes to show how crazy things are in the NFL, or specifically how bad that division is. Next game, Cardinals at the Vikings. Vikings won this one 34-26. The Vikings just don't blow anyone out except the Packers in week 1, and they never look that impressive, but they're 6-1 right now in firm control of that division, so they're in great shape right now. As for the Cardinals, their offense definitely has looked better with DeAndre Hopkins. Will it be enough to turn their season around? I doubt it. Not in any meaningful kind of playoff runway, but, they do look better. Bears at the Cowboys next, and Cowboys won this one 49-29. This was a very high scoring game, a lot higher scoring than I thought it would be, given that these are two teams whose specialty is on the defensive end. The big thing with this game, I mean, besides Prescott being his second week back, and he definitely looked good in this game, was Tony Pollard. This was his first game as a starter with Zeke Elliott out due to injury. And Pollard looked terrific, to where it does open up the question of, should Pollard be get the majority of the carries? Production wise, he's definitely better than Zeke Elliott over the past few years. I think the main thing though is how would Pollard be being, like the bell cow running back, the main starter and getting all the carries. Would his effectiveness be as much? It's weird because they only use him in kind of spurts. So if you take that away, will it take away his effectiveness? I'm not sure, but he definitely looked amazing in this game. And, in terms of play for play, he's definitely better than Zeke Elliott at this point. So we'll see how that goes going forward. You move from a QB controversy to a running back controversy. Next up, Raiders at the Saints in New Orleans, and the Saints blanketed the Raiders 24-0. The Saints are hardly world beaters, so that is an inexcusable performance by the Raiders. They did not even cross the 50-yard line in this game. And I don't think McDaniels will get fired, not in one season. I just think that's a little too soon. But, after they had turned their season around a little bit, getting a few wins and sort of putting themselves in position to be successful, with this kind of performance, it almost kind of puts the nail in the coffin for their season. Ugly stuff for them, because like I said, the Saints are hardly world beaters this year. Steelers and the Eagles is the next game, the Battle of Pennsylvania. Eagles won this one 35-13. Nothing really surprising in this game. These are two teams that, we know what they are. Eagles, the lone undefeated team in the NFL. The Steelers clearly rebuilding, and, they're going to take their lumps through this season. So, nothing surprising in this game. Patriots at the Jets is the next one. Patriots won this one 22-17. The Patriots, after their sort of self-inflicted QB controversy between Zappe and Mac Jones after that Monday night debacle versus the Bears, they definitely needed a win. Got this one 22-17. Despite Mac Jones was the one that started and played throughout the game, and he definitely did not look great. I mean, just didn't look great all season. He was okay, mediocre at best. One touchdown, one interception, like 198 yards. I think that's what it was. They got the win mainly because the Jets QB was so atrocious himself with Zach Wilson. He's just been terrible despite the Jets being 5-3. He was just terrible in this game. He's been terrible all season. And if this continues, they'll need to probably look forward elsewhere for QB just because, 2 straight years of Zach Wilson and he's progressing. Not good stuff. The next game is my favorite type of game, an AFC South matchup. Titans at the Texans. Titans won this one 17-10. The Texans are clearly the worst team in the NFL. So, you know what to expect from them going forward. For the Titans, they're pulling off more of the same kind of magic that they did last year, that one-seeded magic, because they're just pulling games. I was like, whoa, the Titans are 5-2. I guess after how bad they looked in the first 2 weeks, that's why people had kind of written them off. But now you look up at it, 5-2. So, they're doing the same kind of stuff they did last year. The next game, Giants at the Seahawks, is the lone game between two teams with winning records this season. The two feel-good stories here. There's the Seahawks that won this one 27-13. What a great story the Seahawks have been. Everyone wrote them off, wrote the team off, wrote the coach off, and definitely wrote the QB off, Geno Smith, who's just playing some great football this year. And the Seahawks, who would have thought, number one in the NFC West after 8 weeks. So they're doing good stuff. As for the Giants, they weren't going to keep pulling these games out their asses like they had been over the first 7 weeks of the season, but they're definitely still in good shape going forward. Next is Commanders at the Colts. This could have been the Carson Wentz revenge game, and had it been, the Commanders ended up winning this one 17-16. The Commanders, they got Taylor Heineke now. They got a win. Good for them in that respect, I guess. You got the Colts, who now that they've benched Matt Ryan, I don't know if that really means they're sort of trying to punt on the season, planning for the future. They started the young kid, Sam Ehlinger. Ryan definitely did not look great all season. But, when you put the kid in there, you're almost saying, all right, enough of this. It's time to kind of start looking to the future. And, the Colts, they've just been on just such a weird QB carousel over the past few years. And looks like they'll be in the market for another QB going forward. As for the Commanders, it's definitely impressive. They've gotten 3 straight wins after their 1-4 start to where now at 4-4, last place in the NFC East. But the NFC East is the NFC Beast, with your last place team being 4-4. You got the Giants at 6-2, Cowboys 6-2, Eagles lone undefeated. Amazing stuff for all of these teams. The NFC Beast right now instead of the least. Next game, the final of the afternoon window. 49ers at the Rams. 49ers won this one 34-14. Now, this was a sad game to watch because this was in LA, and I had gone to the Cowboys game a few weeks ago where the whole stadium was taken over by Cowboys fans. You just saw, dark blue and silver all over the place. But this game was even worse in that respect, as it was a continuation of what happened last year with these 49ers Rams game, where it was just a sea of red at SoFi Stadium. So it's like, oh my God, is the Rams fan base really like that low? I mean, you got a Super Bowl team, you're in LA, beautiful new stadium. It was just amazing and sad to watch. It's like, wow, the Rams, after a Super Bowl, being this primetime market with your stadium, it's still nothing for them. Just sad to watch for them in that respect. In terms of the actual game, this was the Christian McCaffrey show as he put an absolute clinic with his trifecta performance, where he had a rushing touchdown, he had a receiving touchdown, and he threw for a touchdown. Unbelievable stuff. The only two players that have done that before are LaDainian Tomlinson and Peyton Manning. So amazing performance. The 49ers show the potential they can have with McCaffrey. And I do think now, when they're on their A game, they're the best team in the NFC, even better than the Eagles. Final game of Sunday was Buccaneers at the Bills, a Sunday nighter. Now, the Bills were heavily favored in this game. It was the biggest underdog that Aaron Rodgers has ever been in. Rightfully so, with the way these teams have looked. And the Bills, I mean, it was not a dominant performance, 27-17. Now, early on, the first 2 quarters or so, the first half, it looked like this could have been like a 41-13 type of game. But it wasn't, because the Bills just were not good. They played really their D or F game in the second half. Mainly, Allen had 2 just really bad picks that took scoring opportunities away from them. And, the Packers actually played okay in the final 2 quarters or so. I mean, that's kind of the expectations for them now, especially with this game, with how big an underdog they were. So I think the Packers should feel okay, I guess. I mean, they did run the ball really well. Granted, the game was never in serious doubt. But yeah, you have that. And the Bills, I mean, I guess this is the position that they're in. People expect them to be so dominant that when you have just a measly 27-17 win against a game you were heavily favored in, that's kind of the world you live in when you're the heavy favorites to win the title. So there you go. Definitely not a great performance by the Bills. And then the final game, the Monday nighter for Halloween night, Bengals at the Browns. Browns won this one 32-13. Browns definitely needed this win after the skid they've been on. And with the Bengals, it's their first game without Chase. And, I think they'll put on better performances than this. But at 4-4 now, there's no time to sort of F around and all that kind of stuff. They got to put some wins together to put them in solid playoff positioning. And with Chase being out about, I think they're hopeful with like 3 to 4 weeks. Definitely won't be easy for them, but they're going to have to make it through if they want to make the playoffs. I did wonder initially, why is this game the Halloween night game? And it's like, oh, you watch the game, the team colors, orange, black, brown, Halloween colors, haha, NFL, very clever. Y'all think of everything. So there you go with your Week 8 slate of games, reviewing the recap. It's mostly a continuation of the stuff we've seen before. The Eagles still look really good. We've seen the continued slide from the Packers and the Buccaneers, that kind of stuff. Definitely was not the most impressive slate of games, but it's the NFL and we're going to watch anyway. Week 9, unfortunately, seems to be more of the same, where you look at the slate of games and it's all like, oh my God. Probably the best game coming up would be Rams at Buccaneers. That's the 125 game, but that game definitely looked a lot more interesting or better a few months ago than it does now. These are 2 old and beaten up teams. As for the rest of the slate, yeah, nothing really worth, setting your whole schedule around. So this next Sunday might be the first time to sort of go to church, spend some time with your significant other, all that kind of good stuff. Just because Week 9 for the NFL, and not all that super exciting, to be honest. So that'll do it for this NFL Week 8 review and recap of all the games, the big picture takeaways, and all that kind of good stuff. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching.